Hello, everybody, and welcome to Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. I'm your host, BMR. If this is your first time here, please subscribe, give a thumbs up, hit that alert bell, share us out. You can find us on YouTube at Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Subscribe to Texas Front Porch on YouTube. Subscribe to the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube as well. We're also on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and wherever podcasts are found. We're also on KPNL Radio. Thank you to the lovely Selene out in Oregon for that. You can also find us on Facebook at Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob Facebook group, the Blondes and Booze Facebook group, Texas Front Porch Facebook group. Don't forget, once again, to subscribe to our channels across the board. I'll get into that in a second. If you like our content and would like to help support the channel, the super chat is open. Yes, the super chat is open. And long after the show or any video we produce, the super thanks is also open should you care to contribute. Check out our channel pages, our about pages for upcoming events and things that we got going on. With that being said, what we do have going on, of course, is Mondays. We have a Texas Front Porch that comes on Mondays at 9 o'clock in the East. Tuesdays is Van Buren Variety. He comes on at 8 in the East. Beyond the BMR, Tuesday, 9 in the East. Jason McLean is doing something called Mysterious Library on Untold Radio AM. Go check out Jason. That's at 10 on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, the Diva Dimension, 12 in the East. And don't forget, Jason McLean questions everything. Subscribe to him. He no longer does live shows, but he does provide great content on his channel, along with Donnie Cho. So don't forget Jason. Thursdays, back here, Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East, along with KRISTA. Later on tonight, you get the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Please subscribe. You got KRISTA and Brandy. They always have a great show. If you need more woo with the booze, they're also back on Fridays, Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo, the podcast. Check them out, 9 in the East. Fridays, that is Friday, excuse me. Saturday is, Texas got something called Infamous Minds. It's a true crime series. He does that with Daniel Diva. That is Saturdays at 3 o'clock in the East. And I always have to mention Jessica Jones, my buddy. She's on Space Out Radio, 10 East, Saturday and Sunday, and she is the Cryptid Huntress. You can find her on her channel as well. Thanks to everybody for joining us. We have a great show. Marty, the NonnaBoss, is joining us. We're going to get down to it. It's going to be a fantastic and a fun show, I do believe, because she's hanging out with KRISTA. And you know what? Without further ado, I'm going to bring up the two wonderful ladies. What's up, gals?
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing?
You know, it seems like every time I come on a Thursday afternoon with you, KRISTA, I get storms rolling in. And once again, we're expecting tornadoes and half-inch golf ball size hail.
Oh
so yeah, it's just another day. It's just another Thursday for me. Crappy weather again on Thursday.
Wow.
But you know, it's nothing new for me, anyways. And anybody who follows the show knows that it's nothing new. And I'm actually sick of talking about it all the time.
I hear you. We had a good storm go through here, but it's all right now.
It's beautiful.
It probably blew through, and so I'm going to wait on it. I think I'm good for now. Everything looks good. I'm ready to roll. I'm excited for this show. In fact, it's so funny. And, I've been so busy. In fact, I've been so busy because my new book is coming out this weekend.
I'm excited.
Oh, my gosh, that's so exciting.
Yeah. It's called Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. It's called Bigfoot, Michigan Rob Presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. That will be available on Amazon this weekend, and also it'll probably be on the shelves of Barnes & Noble. So I'm kind of excited about that. So, and the reason why I forgot about today's show, Marty, no offense to you, I said, Chris, I think you and I are going to wing it tomorrow and just talk about whatever. and she responds back, Rob, we have Marty coming on. I'm like, why don't I have this in my computer? Why is it not written down on my calendar? So I do apologize, Marty. No, hey, listen, nothing on you. I've just been running. I'm just glad this book's finally going to be done. Then I can get back, And listen to Duke. I love Duke. Sure, a likely story. I love Duke. Duke Sullivan, World Bigfoot Radio. Subscribe to Duke if not already. And if you haven't, you're nuts if you haven't. So thanks, Duke.
Talking about weather. I mean, I actually put it up as a short. I was doing a show one night, and literally a lightning struck behind me, and you see the flash, and I jump, and I thought I was gonna like faint. I was so like, my heart was just yeah. So I made it a short. It's hilarious. Everybody should go check it out. It's pretty funny.
We'll for sure check it out. Again, everybody, I know my wonderful mods out there will drop your link to NonnBoss Continuum found on YouTube. Nice startup show. I got it in my about page on my channel. Of course, I'm sure some of our mods will put that out for you. And before we get into you, I'm kind of like, you guys how'd you guys, I mean, look, okay, you're obviously staying with KRISTA, so obviously you guys must be getting together, do a little boots on the ground, or I heard you had a UFO experience last night.
We did. We did. We have the Gatlinburg conference this weekend.
Okay.
So it was cheaper for Marty to fly into St. Louis and ride to Gatlinburg with me than it was for her to drive from Florida to Gatlinburg. True story. Yeah. So we're leaving after the show, and we are headed to Bart and Letitia Nunley's going to crash there tonight, and then we're all headed down to Gatlinburg tomorrow.
Well, that's awesome. It takes me back to when I went to Alabama. You guys probably heard the story. I know KRISTA has, probably not Marty. So last year, I went to the Alabama Bigfoot conference with Tex and Jason, and we spoke there. So Tex and Jason drove, and it was for them, I don't know how many hours that is, but it's like over 6 hours, 8 hours. And I flew. So I flew from Detroit Metro Airport. And I had a layover. I had to go to Chicago. It was so weird. I went from Detroit to Chicago, then to Birmingham, Alabama, which was fine. Getting there was fine. But when I was returning, my return flight home, I got delayed in Alabama because good old BMR had a Bigfoot cast in my carry-on. And so when I'm at the so when I'm at TSA, is that what that is? TSA? Okay. So I'm standing in line, and all the luggage is going down the conveyor belt towards the goods area, and then mine takes a right-hand turn. And the guy said, "Oh boy, you're in the bad line." I'm like, "Oh no." So about a couple TSA agents, they came over, went through my bag, and in layers of clothes was my cast. And they said, "What is this?" And like a dummy, I said, "Well, it's not cocaine baked into that little
right."
And all of a sudden, that was a dumb thing to say about
you said the wrong.
all of a sudden, 4 or 5 more agents came over. I had to explain myself. I said, "Look," I started handing out my business cards. "Oh, I'm Bigfoot Michigan Rob from Michigan, and I was just at the Alabama Bigfoot conference. I was a speaker. I'm somebody. Bigfoot." So they all some people thought it was not funny, and some people were kind of smirking. So I started. So they say, "Hey, tell us about Bigfoot." So I start talking to these agents about Bigfoot, and and then all of a sudden I said, "Guys, you gotta let me go because I'm gonna miss my plane because we talked for like 40 minutes."
Yeah.
Oh, they said, "Hey, BMR." Yeah, now they're calling me BMR because I made friends.
I love it.
And they're like, "Oh, dude, your plane is delayed for 3.5 hours. We can talk for another." I said, "You gotta be kidding me." So I spoke for another 40 minutes, and I went to the bar, of course. And you know what I did? I said, "You know what? I'm gonna pull out my cast." I put it on top of the bar, and that was just a big focal point. I spent $150 at the airport bar giving Bigfoot stories out at the airport.
That's
It was great. And then I got delayed again on the next flight for another couple hours. Oh, wow. I was broke when I got home at the bar airport. I spent more money at the bar airport than I did in Alabama.
I believe that.
And then here's the kicker of the story. Texan Jason, who drove, made it home before I did.
I believe that. Wow.
And I was on a
That's
plane.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy. Yeah. Well, if anybody out there and they're around Gatlinburg area this weekend, I know
Absolutely.
tickets are still available.
Yeah.
Blondes and Booze has a booth, and you'll be able to come see Bart Nunley and Martin Groves are going to be there next to us. And
if you can't find me, go to the Blondes and Booze table, and KRISTA will call me, and I will meet you there.
Yep. And same thing, D.A. Roberts is going to be there, and Robbie Raines from his show, and Greg Ogles, who we met at the Alabama Bigfoot Conference. And I know Small Town Monsters crew, they're going to be there too. So it's going to be great.
It's going to be good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you for putting out the NonnaBoss's YouTube channel. And now it's a perfect segue into this. For those who don't know who you are, I mean, I know that you're into the high strangeness, whether it's cryptids, paranormal, UFOs. In fact, we'll get into your UFO skywatching you guys did. But why don't you Marty, why don't you let everybody know how you got involved with this, with this subject matter?
I've always had weird things going on. I always had, growing up, a lot of paranormal stuff, a lot of ghost stuff, a lot of UFO stuff, ET stuff. But I had an encounter. How I really got started back in 1986. I was out on the levees out there in the middle of the Everglades, and my first husband, we used to go out there looking for snakes, because during this winter time they would come up on top of the levees to get warm, you know. So we would just drive the levees really slow, creeping along, looking for snakes, and just something came. And it's just a 1-lane road, right? I mean, it's a levee. It's not a road. It's not even really, it's barely a service road. So literally it's like a slope, level, enough for a car to get past, and then another slope on the other side. So we were driving along, and then something came up on all fours. It was on all fours. So at first we thought because the only thing out there that we could even fathom that was anywhere near kind of large was a bear, but yet in that area there really weren't black bears, and it was solid black, and it came up on all fours. And right as it got to the top, it started to transition to stand up and took a step in the middle of the road. One step, turned and looked at us, and then took the other step and was down the other side and was gone. But the interesting thing, and why it freaked me out, was because when it did look at us, and it was way above the headlights, so it wasn't eye shine, but when he looked at us, it looked, if you could imagine Patty looking back at you but having red glowing eyes, it would be like that. They were illuminated from the inside out. And I was like, back up. And because when you're on those levees, you got to go all the way to the end in order to turn around, because there's not enough room on them to even turn your car around. And I was like, back up. So we had to reverse out of there, because I was like, we are not going down. The rest is we're done for the night. Nope. So that was what originally got me into this. And I always watched everything weird and strange. But actually doing research and getting out there was about 2.5 years ago. Matt and I went on an event, an expedition that Stacy Brown put on over in Mayaca, and everything happened that weekend. Literally. Wow. The only thing we didn't have is a Class A sighting, but we had footprints. We found hair. We heard whoops. We heard trees getting pushed over.
Is that where you got touched?
Yeah, I got touched. I was inside the tent sleeping, and something like brushed up against the top of my head, like up from the outside of the tent. Something was throwing stuff at the tent all night. I was coming back to camp before everybody else. They went on a hike, and I was like, I gotta go. I want to go lay down. I'm by myself, and I'm on the path, and I'm going back to the camp. And I actually have a short. It was my very first short I ever did. It's on my channel, a rock. I was literally like FaceTiming my friend, and you hear the rock go over my head. And then I'm like, oh, wow, that just happened. Like, we had UFOs, we had paranormal stuff going on. Like everything happened except two things. I didn't see an orb, and I never saw like a face-to-face Bigfoot daytime sighting. That's the only thing that didn't happen. Everything else did. And I was hooked. That was it. That's all it took.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, that's a great, I mean, sighting encounter, really, you know?
Yeah.
So
I feel like, you know, when I personally have never seen one either. However, I know I've had two encounters and they were at the same location. And the first one, I didn't know that's what it was. And the second one was at, it was a Fall Into the Supernatural event we were doing, and D.A. Roberts was there talking about Bigfoot. He was our speaker that evening. And we had something thrown between DA's wife and myself. I mean, what else is going to do that out in the forest? I mean, it was weird. There's 30 people around and we all witnessed it.
Yeah.
So go figure. I don't feel like, you know, I feel like a lot of encounters happen and people don't actually physically see them, you know?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So you were 30 people, KRISTA, and had a rock thrown at you?
There was something thrown between me and DA's wife. Yep. Yeah, it was, we looked at each other like, whoa. And then people started making comments because it was obvious, you know, you heard it, you heard that thump. And it was probably, I don't know, maybe 11 o'clock at night, estimating. And what was weird is because that's where I had my first encounter. And then, you know, we were doing this event out there and it was around a campfire, and DA was actually talking Bigfoot. He was our speaker for the cryptids, and that was crazy. And everybody was accounted for. It's not like anybody snuck off in the woods or, you know, I mean, it truly happened. It was crazy.
You know, I'll get back with you in just a second, Marty. But you know, I find fascinating about getting a rock thrown at you, KRISTA, is there's 30 people there. Because typically, you guys know that when you hear reports or talk to people, it's typically not a big group of people.
Yeah,
in fact,
I find myself when that happens to me.
You were by yourself, KRISTA, with 30 people, because I don't call myself a researcher. Excuse me. When I have an opportunity, do I go out and look for evidence? Yeah, but I'm not like out there like a lot of like Duke and a lot of other well-known researchers. However, the reports and when I talk to people, it's like typically with that many people, you don't get anything. You don't get a whoop. You don't get a rock thrown. You don't even find anything because they just don't. They want to be away from us, right? So I find that KRISTA to be very, very interesting.
Yep, it's a true story. Brandy was there; she witnessed it. Like I said.
Now, was that your first? Was that on your first night you were there?
We stayed there a lot, but yes, it was our first night.
Because what Matt and I have kind of seen a pattern in a sense that we have more activity usually on the first night. It's like the first night you're there, they come in because they're like, oh wait, who's this? What are they doing here? And they're curious and they want to kind of see you. And then maybe the second night you may want to, you know, a little bit of things maybe happen, or you may hear some sounds, but not so much activity. And then after that second night, there's very, very, very little that happens. Very little that goes on.
Yeah.
In my experience.
And your experiences, yes. And I was just going to say, and I believe your experiences, everything you guys say, I'm 100% on board with. But then I always find that, because I always will talk about somebody's doing some Bigfoot research, and I don't listen. If you're a weekend warrior, hey, go for it. If you're out in the field looking for evidence, I don't care if it's 1 day, 3 days, 30 days. But I often find too, a lot of times when you get out there, and I'm one of these guys, you know, you can see a Bigfoot crossing the road on the trail. I get it. I've spoken to people where really, if you want to get down and dirty, you got to go off trail several miles and hang out for 3 or 4 days so that the Bigfoot get used to you and come out. But I hear that many times. But with that being said, it can be 90% of the stories that we all hear are what? Bigfoot crossing the road, off the interstate, off the freeway, and they just happen to be doing their thing. And so, again, it doesn't matter your experience, how long you stay. It can happen at any time, anywhere. And, of course, we'll get back to, because I know you're into this as long, and KRISTA, it depends on your vibe and what you're projecting into the forest as well. What do you guys think about that?
I think
believe
I think your intentions really do also dictate the interactions or activity that you may have. And whether that encounter or activity is in a positive way or a negative way, I believe that this is, again, my experience, right? Because here's what I will tell you. The only time that I had something that was a kind of a negative interaction, we were in a spot and this person met us there at the location. Unbeknownst to us, decides literally, like, kind of rolls up, and then literally before he even got out of his truck, he starts blasting the Sierra sounds. Okay. Well, about 10 minutes after he did that, because I made him finally turn it off. I mean, it was loud. He was blasting it out there, and I made him turn it off. And about, I'd say, 10, 15, 20 minutes, we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, and it's quiet. We're just kind of standing between the two cars, kind of just chilling out, kind of just listening, looking, watching. And all of a sudden, we hear something hit his truck.
Wow.
But we couldn't figure out what it was. We're looking around. We didn't know what it was, but we heard like a definite something hit his car. And I said it sounded like a rock. A couple minutes later, rock number 2 shows up, hits his windshield so hard, it nicked his windshield of his Hummer.
Wow. Oh, put a little spider crack in it or something like that?
Yep.
Wow.
And you could see where it hit, like the dirt, like the dust, like when the rock hit, the dust, like powder, and then it nicked his windshield. So that was rock 2. Rock number 3 lands on top of the roof of my car. And we started that. Now that rock we found. So we see it, we document it, we take photos, we video it, we collect it. It was wet, and it was a very dry night. And the second rock was dry because when it hit the windshield, you saw that powder right on the windshield. And this rock was wet. So we weren't sure. We thought that was a strange thing. But Matt, we always carry.
Now the rock was wet. Was there like a water tributary around there or stream, or you think maybe spit on it? I mean, I don't know.
Well, we weren't sure in the moment. We didn't know, but when we collect evidence, we always have gloves, and we always have we try to not contaminate any evidence that we find. And so we collect it, we bag it and tag it, and we're doing that, and we finally get it put away, and we shut the car doors. Rock number 4 comes in.
Oh wow!
Hits the guy's Hummer. I went around with the flashlight, and it was about that big around. The one that hit my car was about that big. This one was bigger. This is rock 4. And I look down and I shine it, and I see that there's a hair on it. And I said to Matt, I said, I got it. It's here. It's right here. So they come over, and we're looking at it. And I've shown it on my channel before. Maybe I'll post the photo on my community tab or something, maybe, or a short or something. But it's clear, solid, clear, perfectly clear. Absolutely. Wow. Like
the hair is clear, translucent.
Translucent. So again, bag it and tag it. Again, we shut the doors and we don't get in the car. Rock number 4 comes in. And it's this big, and it hits a sign. It was like a hiker's sign, telling you the hours and stuff about the area. And it hit that sign, put a dent in that sign, and I said, "We got to go."
Yeah.
Excuse me. What type of sign was this? Like a stop sign?
No. Like it was the area. It's hard to just kind of describe. The area the location that we were in, you can't be in there at night, but you can park, when you come into the area, you can park in the park, like a little parking area. There's like a room for about 4 vehicles. That's it. It's a very tiny little area. And there's signs next to the trail, the head of the trail, that you take, and that's what they hit. They hit that sign.
Wow.
They could have hit us. They could have hit a car, but they didn't. They hit that sign.
It's funny too that you hear all these stories about the rock throwing. It comes from alleged Bigfoot, but they never really pick off anybody. It's always a foot in front of you, or in this case, hitting and putting a dent in that sign. You got to imagine the force behind that, because I'm assuming it was a metal sign.
Yeah, yeah, it was metal.
And I mean, I can go up to a metal sign, and I could be 10 feet away and get a sizable rock, and I can hit it and put a dent in it. However, you got to imagine the distance that this rock was thrown had to really have some force and velocity behind it. So if you think about that, it's a little, overwhelming, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. I see Freaky Geek had a question about the hair. He's asking.
Oh yeah, I see it.
For you.
Yeah, if the hair is translucent. Well, here's how it was so interesting that you say that. And when I'll post it, I will post it on my community tab, and people can go and check it out. When you see the photo, you'll understand what I'm saying. It's it's so translucent that it stands out when I came around the car and I hit the flashlight. It's almost like it glowed. It's so bright in the photo, you cannot miss it. And the interesting thing about it was, it looks almost like a little curly Q. It's like like a little, like it's all curled up, and then it's a little straight thing, little straight section, and it's attached to the rock.
Okay.
Wow.
And the interesting too that we come across is, it depends on who you speak with. Different people have different theories about Sasquatch having translucent hair because it's part of their cloaking, right? Again, you'll have two sides of the coin, the flesh and blood, and you have the supernatural, paranormal, however you want, the woo, right? But the translucent hair makes sense depending on your point of view of where it can help blend into the forest, and you can see right through it. Because we've had many stories where people can actually walk. If you're not looking for Sasquatch, Bigfoot, you can walk right past it. And I'm sure people have, like many hunters, just 1,000 times, because they're just sitting there right up to a tree, and they blend right into the background of the forest.
Well, we have other, we've got other samples, other hairs, and Matt, it's on Matt's channel, Strange. You can check it out at Strange, South Florida. I will be doing a show with Robbie Rains here in a couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about adaptive camouflage. And I am going to show the analysis that Matt did, and everybody can see the close up of the hairs. And the interesting thing is that these hairs now, this is a totally different, collected at a totally different location, and literally the hairs were all colors.
Yeah,
they were red, they were kind of green, they were kind of brown, they were kind of black. Some of them were kind of darker going to light. Some were lighter color going to dark. Very, very, very. You always see it. Come check us out. I think Robbie's going to be on August 6th. We're going to talk about adaptive camouflage. I'm going to show all those photos of those hairs and the microscopic analysis, and you can see it. It's pretty. It's interesting. It is very, very compelling.
And Steve McFinnigan says they just want you gone. And I do prescribe to the theory that if they're throwing rocks at you, in my point of view is this, they want to be left alone. I mean, I think we are their amusement. And once they're done being amused, then they're ready to toss a rock, maybe give you a little, to scare you a little bit, to get you off of there, just to get you out, right?
Well, I've been in that area. We've been to that location a lot and never had a negative interaction. We've had other interactions. None of them were any kind of an aggressive manner of any kind. I honestly, truly believe what triggered that particular aggressive, not really aggressive, but yes, aggressive, like get out of here, was I think it was triggered by the Sierra sounds that this guy blew,
But here's the thing. Yeah, when you started with that conversation about blasting vocalizations into the forest, You
Mhm.
could be, again, who knows what, the Ron Moorhead tapes,
Right.
who knows what they're saying. I mean, it's communication, I think, between like three, sounds like two married couples arguing. That's what I
Right.
got out of it. But,
100%.
and I hear these people that will blast these sounds into the forest.
Mhm.
And they could be amateur, they could be doing it for 20, 30 years. But how do you know what the vocalization sounds or these roars, these whoops, these screams, these yells? What are they saying? Is it a mating call? Is it declaring war on another clan? I
Right.
mean, and all of a sudden that could get you in a lot of trouble. So I personally,
That's right.
would I do it? Well, I'm gonna say yes because I'm a
Of course you would,
jackass.
Rob.
Yeah, I would. I don't prescribe. I would. However, I don't recommend it, right?
Right.
Because we just don't know what they're saying.
No. I mean,
And-
but it did for us in a, if you're looking at it from a research perspective, it was an interesting interaction all the way around, triggered by something we had never done before. I mean, even though we didn't know he was going to do it, but it was something that because Matt and I, we are very respectful. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but when we go into an area, before we go into an area, we literally will stand at the tree line and literally I'll be like, hey, hi, I'm Marty. This is Matt. We're not here to hurt you. We are here just to be in your space. We're open to an interaction if you're willing. And, we appreciate your hospitality. And, and I feel like that has been a key component to the success of us having interactions. I mean,
well, I agree with that.
Some crazy things. It's but I think that's why.
I've been doing this for a couple of years now, talking with various people such as yourself and others, and I find that a lot of people, they actually do go into the forest and say, "Hi, I'm Joe.
Mhm.
Mean you no harm. I like to have interaction. I get it if you want to do with me, but I'm here with good intent." That word intent, right, KRISTA? That comes up. It don't matter what genre you're talking about. It could be cryptids, it could be ghosts, paranormal, anything, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, I'm not. Again, we're not experts. I'll never talk as fact, but I think all these beings of the forest, they know your intentions.
Absolutely. I agree. 100%.
Yep. For sure.
100%.
Yeah.
And reverting back really quickly before I forget about the translucent hair. Yeah, I think the hair comes in what I saw was reddish brown. Beautiful. It was a beautiful. I mean, I'd like to hang that carpet on my wall, right? That's how beautiful it was.
The daytime sighting that I had, it was this beautiful, deep, like auburn color. It was, I can't even describe. It was beautiful. It was so shiny and so it was awesome. But what I saw did not look Patty, anything like Patty. I saw from here up, and what I saw was very, very human, very human. The only thing that didn't appear human was the color of the skin, which was like this very soft, like ashy gray. And it had a very lanky sort of kind of features, like a basketball player kind of build.
Yeah, which kind of reminds me that you bring it up about when I had my encounter, and everyone knows my story. In fact, Sibylla Irwin is doing the renditions of both of the Bigfoot. I mean, I saw one Bigfoot, but as most people know, it looked like a human being. And the thing, but it looked deformed. Look, it had Down syndrome, and it's so hard to have. I know when I tell the story, it's hard for people to picture what it looked like because I mentioned the beautiful hair, reddish brown hair, but that grayish face, but that offset face, the Down syndrome looking thing. So Sibylla finally, because I've had other renditions done, you guys, none of them come close what Sibylla does. She does amazing work. Shout out to her. We are almost done with my first, the Bigfoot that I seen as a human. And I got to tell you guys, I can't wait. We're going to do a show on it here in another month when everything's done, because she's also going to do the demon looking Bigfoot. but I got to tell you, it's about 90 to 95% accurate. And when you guys see this, you'll know what I'm talking about being looking weird, but human, but not like a creature, not a beast, anything. It looked like, in fact, you guys, if I had a rifle in my hand, I would not have pulled the trigger.
No.
I would do it anyway. I don't advocate any of that anyways. I never would do that.
Mhm.
But if you had lined it up in a scope, you said, wow, that's a person, but man,
Yeah.
that's an effed up looking person, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you say the human, I think they all have the human element to them.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't look. There was nothing about the features. Of course, I only saw it from like here up, but there was nothing about the features that looked apish or animal. Even the skin to me didn't seem or didn't appear to be like thick or tough. It seemed to be just like our skin. And
Yeah.
like I said, it just looked like its skin was like a light ashy gray.
And I'll say, and I'll put it on record today. I've said it many times. BMR is not a part of the Aper camp. You can kind of, I will check that off my box of my theory, right? I just don't get. Is there something out there that could perhaps look like there could be, because you never know what's going on out there. But when you have a Bigfoot encounter, no one describes it as looking like a gorilla, an ape. You might get a half-assed orangutan looking one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that might be something else. That's more like probably the Gugway. Deuce and Chad, he knows more about it than I do. But they look more like a creature versus human than I'm pulling from memory. So I know, Marty, you do a lot of research with Matt. I've seen Matt quite a bit. He's done a couple of documentaries. He's a movie guy. He does little short movies, I believe. And when you guys are together out in the woods, let me ask you, what do you think? If most of the encounters that you've come across, and I know you had the one you talked about, what's your gut? Do you sense that they're around, or do you get that like intuition that, you know what, I'm being watched, or something that's not right going on? And what I mean by not right, not negative, but there's something odd about the forest.
I get let's see how to explain it. For me personally, because I've always been an empath, I've always been intuitive. When I started doing this, I started really trying to identify energies and working to learn how to work with energy. And when I started doing that and using this particular technique that I use, I was able to physically feel and know when they are around. So once I can pick up that they're here and they're around, then I start trying to hone in on where they are and where they're located. Are they to my right? Are they to my left? It just, for me, it's just, I can sense their energy. It's the only way I can explain it. But yeah, that's generally how I usually know.
And I get what you're saying too, because when I had my first encounter at that same place, it was the middle of the night and I took my dog out to go to the bathroom. I couldn't sleep. And I just had this overwhelming feeling of being watched. And like I said, I've been a ghost hunter for years. Ghosts don't scare me. Put me in a haunted place by myself, I'm good. But there's something that night that scared me. So I get what you're saying.
You can feel it. You can feel it.
And again, being an empath, when you feel something, it's not necessarily, I'm just trying to put it in my brain. If you sense something, it's not always necessary. I know you do you're out in the boots on the ground doing all that. But can you tell us a different feeling? Because I know if you're looking for Bigfoot, is it always in your mind? Do you think automatically Bigfoot, or do you think maybe something else? An elemental, dogman, a ghost, or just some strange spirit entity of the forest?
So for me, every time that I've encountered Sasquatch, it's the same. It's hard to explain. It's almost like it's the same vibration that I feel. It's kind of the only word it doesn't exactly completely describe it, but it's almost like they have a specific vibration I'm able to pick up on.
Mhm.
Now, there have been other times when I have felt energies that were very new to me. One of them happened when we were with Jessica in North Georgia in the mountains. That particular energy kind of freaked me out because it didn't feel negative, but it also didn't have a very positive
Mhm.
energy, and it was very neutral, and not for nothing, I don't trust neutral.
Mm.
I rather, you know what I mean, I rather have something to be able to know this positive energy, negative energy, because then I know what I need to do, right? When they're
Yeah.
neutral, when it was this strange neutral energy that came swirling in between me and Jessica.
Yeah.
And it just kind of sat there and was there, and it was, I could feel it, and it was just this very strange thing. And I was very, very, very unnerved. Now there was another time when Matt and I was out. We've been out a couple other times, and yeah, I've felt other energies, and they are different. It's almost as if they're on this different vibration. You can pick up on their vibration. I don't know any other way to really describe it.
Well, I kind of get what you're saying, because I think that, and I know it's hard. You can't, just because you get a vibration, you pick up some frequency. I would think that, yeah, I agree. If I would want something positive or negative, so I know what I'm dealing with, like you said, because I think that if you come across something that's neutral, or you just can't figure out, it's neither good or bad. It's not cold. It's not hot, right? Lukewarm. To me, the first thought that I had when you talked about that was something that is playing games with you and trying to trick you into something.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Because you don't know what you're dealing with. I
And
mean, I've been
a lot
out
of this is intuition.
100%, 100%, 100%. I mean, I have had a couple of times, I've been in some, paranormal locations where I have had negative entities try to jump me. And like, quickly I was like, whoa, no, this isn't happening right now. Like I had to stop it from happening. And like, but so it's kind of like when you feel it, the next time it happens to you, you feel it. Like it's hard to describe until it happens to you. But yeah, I much rather know what it is I'm dealing with. And that night, that particular, I'm just going to call it an entity because I don't know. I felt, if I had to say, and if going off of what my intuition told me that night, it was an interdimensional being, and that's why it felt to me as if it was neutral and wasn't good or bad. That's what it felt like because of the way it swooped in between Jessica and I, as if it came around her back, because we were kind of like in a triangle, sitting in our chairs in a triangle. And it swooped around Jessica and came in between me and her and was just like, it was just there. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it.
Right.
And it was very unnerving. I mean, a lot of things happened that night up there on that mountain, but that was the one thing. We even had missing time, okay? But the one thing that was probably the most unnerving was that.
So you brought up interdimensional.
Mhm.
So I know you've been out again. We brought up your first encounter. You can bring up others that you might have had, and don't have to be Sasquatch.
Mhm.
So, what's your first? Do you think, are you the subscriber that Sasquatch is interdimensional? Do you think can come to and from portals? Do you think that is, well, we'll stop it at that. Interdimensional and portals. What's your thoughts on that?
I really don't know. I really don't know. I anything is possible because we don't know enough. We don't have enough evidence.
Well, it's always a loaded question, and everyone says the same answer because we don't, right?
We don't know. We don't know. I mean, listen, I think anything has the ability to use a portal. And I believe the key to using portals is your vibration. And I feel, and I believe, I subscribe to what, this is my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean I'm correct. But what I think is that whatever being it is, they can resonate their vibration or their bodies at a specific vibration. They have that ability, and then they can slip in and out of those portals. That's what I do.
I always like the theory, and I bring this up every month or so when we get into this discussion about it. I am a subscriber to some of the theories that Ron Moorhead has, right? KRISTA, I always say this, but for me, it rings true for me. You talk about the quantum mechanics or quantum Bigfoot. Yes. That's the book, by the way.
Yes.
Converting mass to energy. I believe that it goes on. I think that's been proven. Bigfoot has I believe that Sasquatch does have immense energy, and I do believe that they can actually convert that, and that's where they can travel. And I'm not talking about running, because they can run 30, 40 mile an hour from what I heard, right? I don't know the exact. They've never been clocked, but I think that's how they can get from place to place, and it's not actually walking through a portal, right? It's just that conversion of all this energy. If you got somebody that's 9 foot tall, 1,200 pounds, that's a lot of stored up, pent up energy. And if they have that innate ability to convert that, then they can move around all over. You hear reports about, I've seen a Bigfoot down at the mouth of the river. People are out researching, then suddenly their research team that is 5 miles south of them have the same experience within seconds.
Yeah. I also think that, again, my opinion, I also think that could possibly explain some of the orb activity or flashes of light at night that we see sometimes. I feel like that could be, and I'm not saying it's always Sasquatch. I mean, it could be any interdimensional being that could be coming back and forth. So I think that could explain some of those reports of orbs or flashes of light or things like, lights that you're seeing in the forest where there shouldn't be, and they're there,
Yeah. I'm kind of on the, like I said, just my opinion, and I'm not 100% flesh and blood. However, I'm not quite to the interdimensional level either. As far as portals and stuff, I've witnessed portals in the paranormal realm, but I've never, seen anything out in the woods or anything myself. It's just my, what I have seen. So
again, I think there's portals in the woods. I think there's portals in the galaxies. I think there's portals. Hell, there's probably a portal in a mall, for God's sakes, right? I think they're there. Am I saying Bigfoot always does this? No, not always. Does it happen? I'm guessing perhaps. I just don't know. We're not experts, I don't have enough time out in the field or experience any of these things. But what we do here for 2 years that I've been doing this, I get all the different theories, right? And I don't mock any of them. It makes you think. This whole discussion about cryptids is about listening to other people have to say in their experiences.
Absolutely.
And I listen, I take them all in, and I come up with my own ideas. But until you've been somewhere, Jessica talks about the cube all the time.
Yeah.
How somebody walked into the cube and came out. I mean, and it looked, and if you can see, they showed a video. I was in Alabama, and Trey Hudson, who was a researcher, their lead investigator, did this video, and they had on the infrared, it was, or night vision, and you've seen it clearly in this, and it was a cube of something went in. One of the people, you could see him come in and come out, and these people had no explanation as to where and how it happened. Didn't even realize it. So these things, and again, it doesn't. I'm not even talking about Bigfoot here. It could be anything.
Yeah, and here's the key, though, to this, and Rob, I know you'll agree with me. I have very good friends who are strictly, the flesh and blood category, and Marty and I, we differ a little. You and I, Rob. The key is there's so much, fighting amongst the Bigfoot community, we're all still friends. We can respect each other's views and their opinions, and that's what makes this,
Absolutely.
I don't knock anyone for thinking.
I'm not gonna knock anybody. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'll tell you right now.
Let's do it.
If everybody, here we go. I don't know. If we all agreed this would be boring.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of different opinions out there, and again, that's what they are, or what their encounter, or what they've seen.
Yeah, because you can only draw from your own experiences, right? So if you haven't experienced, I'm going to just use this as an example. Not that I'm trying to go there in the conversation, but as an example, I mean,
you know what, Marty, we got to take the break in 30 seconds, so we'll put that. But I do want to see Susie B. I'm jealous. She's sitting on the beach right now. I've been following Susie's adventures. Yeah, I've been following Susie B's adventures on Instagram and her Facebook. But this is Susie's back. She made this for me. I've shown it before. It's a rock.
I know.
She asked me what my favorite animal was. I said the lion, and there's some energy thing on back. So when I go out in the boots on the ground myself, I put this in my pocket because I got a couple adventures coming up that I'm excited to talk about.
Susie, I would love one that has an owl on it.
Ooh, that'd be cool too. Susie's a fantastic artist. I always got to show love to Susie B. I met her not in person about 8 months ago. She's cool people. But on that being said, we got to take the 5-minute break. We'll be back with Marty and, of course, the lovely KRISTA, my co-host on Brunch with Bigfoot Machine Rob.
4 minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Brunch with Bigfoot Mystery Rob. We have a fantastic show. Marty, the NonnaBoss, YouTube. Go check her out. Subscribe to her channel on YouTube, the NonnBoss Continuum. Somebody in chat. I know the link has been dropped. You can find it also in my About page for this show. Thanks to everybody for joining. Thank you to Scott for that super chat. Super chat is a great way to help support what we do around here. It is most appreciated. If you can't do it, that's cool. Just share us out, subscribe, show it to friends, pass it to friends, relatives, whomever you think would have an interest. I do appreciate that. We also have quite a lineup every week. It's Mondays. This is Texas Front Porch. Again, we don't stream on anybody's channels. For those of you that are just getting the notice, if you like BMR, you subscribe to BMR and you watch Brunch with Bigfoot Rob and Beyond BMR, my channel, Texas channel, the Blondes, the Booze, Paranormal Podcast, their channel, so on and so forth. Jason McLean questions everything, and of course, Bob Van Buren. And on Mondays, it is Texas Front Porch at 9 o'clock in the East every Monday. Tuesdays is Van Buren Variety, 8 in the East. Beyond the BMR, 9 o'clock in the East on Tuesday. And Jason McLean does something called Mysterious Library and Radio, Untold Radio AM. Check out Jason on Wednesdays. Thursdays, right back here with Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, and KRISTA. 1 in the East. 9 in the East is the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast with KRISTA and Brandy. Check them out on Thursdays. That is today, actually. Friday night, you get a little more woo with the Booze, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Friday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Tex is doing something called Mysterious Library. He's doing Infamous Minds with Danielle Diva. That's Saturday at 3 in the East. Check out Tex if you're into true crime. That's you can't miss on Saturdays. And my buddy Jessica Jones, Space Out Radio, 10 in the East, Saturday and Sunday. And of course, she is the Cryptid Hunters. You can find her on her channel, of course, throughout the week. So with that being said, and once again, thanks, Scott, for the super chat. It is open. Thanks to everybody for joining us. I do appreciate you very much. And with that being said, I'll bring up the girls. I was just taking a peek out my window, and yeah, it's getting gray and dark out there.
Well, you just froze up twice, and I told Marty, I said that rain.
Oh yeah, well, I just looked outside. It's gray, it's windy, you know.
Yeah.
But you know what? So far so good. I froze up twice, but hey, I'll take a couple little freezes.
Right. Yeah. Knock on wood. Your service has been great this morning.
Well, you know, my service is good. It's just that again, not to beat a dead horse, you know, my cable lines are above ground, which a lot of people's are. I just don't get why this happens. It's just
It only happens to you, man.
it only
You and
happens to
Brandy.
me.
Brandy, she's
Yeah,
her.
but Brandy's in the middle of nowhere, and I get it. I've been like, outside of Detroit by 20 minutes, so I should have everything top of the line.
Right. Yeah, you should.
Maybe they'll bring fiber optics here, but that means it'd take 20 years to dig out and install it, so that ain't happening. I guess I'm gonna have to move to Missouri.
There you go.
Or Texas.
Come on.
We're talking, and of course, Marty's from South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit, about your experiences. Where you live, do they call it the skunk ape?
I call them Sasquatch, but most people do call them skunk apes. I just feel like it's derogatory, in my opinion.
Yeah. Dave Scott don't like the word squatch. I'm kind of on that.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people think it's called a skunk ape because it has a really bad smell to it. But I can tell you, I have never had any encounter where there was any bad type of a smell or an odor of any kind in my experience. And I don't know. I've never had that happen to me.
Well, I want to ask you this, talking about where you live and where you do your research along with Matt. So a lot of times when I talk with people from Florida, and I'm sure that you know a lot of research friends that perhaps you converse with or maybe go out in the field with. And I know we've heard about some of your encounters. Do you get any reports or find doing your investigations that when you hear about Bigfoot or Sasquatch being black or red or brown or whatever the color, do you get reports that they're like more of a greenish color where you live due to the environment?
No. Usually the colors the reports around us down in South Florida, like Everglades areas and kind of Lake Okeechobee, southern, like southeast kind of areas. And then there's a lot of sightings in Mayaca, Bear Island, all of that. They're never green. I've never read on BFRO, not one report where it was green. They're always that like reddish amber color or brownish black.
Well, the BFRO wouldn't report it if it was green because that goes against their narrative anyways.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a report that it materialized out of a tree stump or there was orbs around or there was UFO sighting, your report will be sanitized. So I'm not a big fan of that. Now, I know people that work for them or wrote for them or reported for them that I've gotten this information from it. And I've done a story. I did a whole show on that like last year. But with that being said, you can find a lot of reports and you can find this, but you'll never find green on the BFRO. Now, and I don't think, and I'll be honest with you.
I have never ever heard green. Ever.
I will go out on a limb and say this. I don't think they're green.
No. I would agree.
Perhaps if you have one that has the translucent hair, like you discussed earlier, and yes, if you're in the swamp and you've got that lush forest in the background, now can it appear to be green? I will agree with that, but not as the color of the hair.
No. Mm-hmm. But I don't even believe. I mean, out in the swamps, I'm just going to tell you. There's only one thing that could possibly get on them that someone may see could be green. We sometimes in some areas, if it's really, really, like a hot summer and we get a lot of this like green algae, maybe sometimes that kind of like lingers at the top of the surface of the water. But that's the only thing that would possibly give them, if they were in the water and they got out, it would be on their body. I get it. But I still, to this day, I've not heard any reports. of that.
Green to me is a frog, lizard.
Yeah.
Again, that's my opinion. Like,
Mhm.
Yep.
You froze up a little bit.
Are you there, Rob?
Did we lose you?
Oh, we might have lost him a minute.
He'll be back.
Yeah, that's all right. Why don't you talk about, you went out in the spring with Robbie.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that encounter?
Yeah.
About our opinions.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean,
He doesn't know he's frozen.
Yeah, he doesn't know he's frozen. So yeah, we were in the Ocala National Forest, and it was very late at night. It was probably like 2 a.m. It was late, and we were just kind of like had flashlight, kind of looking at the tree line, just trying to look for any sign of anything.
Mhm.
And he and I were, we really weren't hearing anything, seeing anything. And then we were just kind of standing there, and this very low, deep growl we heard. And at first when I heard it, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I went up next to him. Like, I went so close to him because he's the one with the weapon, not me, right? I'm like, I take one giant step, and I was like this on his shoulder. I was like, did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Right.
And Robbie's like, uh-huh. And I'm like, that's not a bear. He's like, uh-uh. And I'm like, well, what do you think it was? He goes, I don't know. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
So yeah, it was a really strange, very quick little growl, low, deep growl that happened. And we didn't know what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when you told me about that encounter. That was pretty creepy. While you were froze up, Rob, she told her encounter in the spring.
And in the Ocala National Forest.
Yeah.
So I missed out on all that great juicy information.
Yeah, right.
They
Me
had
and Robbie, yeah.
Yeah, they had a growl in the middle of the Ocala National Forest.
Yeah.
They don't know what it was.
Yeah. Wasn't a bear though. Mm-mm.
No. Well, yeah, I think we could distinguish between that, especially like you're versed in the field, so you kind of know the distinction. I was going to ask you too about that. Is that Lake Okeechobee, right? Splat that? It's right in the middle of the southern. Is that Is that a creepy place? Because I heard that was like a man-made.
It is.
Or is that natural?
It is man-made. The Army of the Corps of Army Engineers, right? Yeah. Okay, I get confused.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, yeah. So they built it. It's very similar to the big, dikes and dams that they have like in New Orleans. And it's one of our largest freshwater sources here in Florida that we draw on. And it's
so it's fresh water, it's not salt.
Correct. It's fresh water. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of activity that surrounds the area. But in like the lake area itself, I don't think that I haven't really heard a lot of reports of them being around the lake. But in the surrounding areas around the lake, I've heard tons. We have lots of reports.
So we switched gears just a little bit because you two girls were out skywatching yesterday.
We did. I picked Marty up at the airport last night about 11:30. We just come back to the house and we went outside to sit, and it was kind of cloudy at the time, and we're like, oh man, wish we could get the laser out and going, and she looked up at all the way. I don't know. We'd been out there for like an hour. She goes, the clouds are gone. Let's go. So there's an opening out over here. And we went out there, and my friend Terry, who I had seen in chat, she taught me last weekend, about with the laser and what to do. And I'm telling you, it worked again last night. We had a big light come back at us.
Yeah.
And then from that same whatever it was, I guarantee it wasn't a star, like 3 things like dashed real quick.
Yeah. It was like something darted 3 times. Like it darted from that pinpoint that we were watching it darted to the 3 o'clock position, and it was like a real quick flash, and then did it 3 times to the side. It was crazy, right?
Yeah. And then the main one just bloop, gone, disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, like gone. And
Yeah.
it was kind of moving out there. We watched it move.
Watched it move. Yep.
And then just bloop, gone.
Yeah. It was crazy.
So we started out, Scott asked tell what to do with the laser. So how Terry explained it to us, it's just a real bright laser, and make sure there's no airplanes or anything up there when you're doing it. But take a laser light and what looks like stars, just start circling them and see if you get any replies, by lights. And this was pretty obvious.
It was way obvious.
Yeah. So it was really cool. We got all excited, and
I got to order me one now. I got to get.
Yeah.
I got to have one of those now.
So I'm taking it to Gatlinburg this weekend.
Yes,
so
Yeah.
Somebody asked where in Missouri we're at. We're in St. Louis area.
Yeah. I've been in St. Louis about 20 years ago. And I got to tell you, I don't know what it's like now, and I went to the Anheuser-Busch factory when it was down there. That was
cool place.
That was a nice tour. Now they're in Germany now. They moved out, eh?
Well, there's still old Anheuser-Busch there, but it got bought by InBev, which, that was a St. Louis thing. So,
you're talking about lasers and lights. When I was a kid, I don't know. I guess I've been always weird. I remember at nighttime, I would take at night when airplanes would fly over my house, I would take my flashlight and shine it at them and click the SOS thing at them. And then, in fact, I had a babysitter at the house when I did that. And then they had told me, Rob, you shouldn't do that because, the police are going to arrest you. And ever since he told me that as a kid, I was really scared to pick up any of these laser pointers and flash them at anything. But you know what? The laser pointers, they can't. I tell you what, it's not the first time I've heard where if you just do that randomly at night, let's say you're skywatching in your yard, and if you have a nice laser and you shine it, I've heard, you guys, more than not, I've heard that you get some sort of response. Something unusual appears, like you said.
2 weekends in a row.
Yeah.
Then had response.
So I do buy into that. I think that, and you guys, boom.
Yeah. And they look like just normal stars out there. So literally they are hidden in plain sight.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm not saying not all the stars out there are UFOs, because they're not. I mean, you just keep going until you get something to respond to you. When you see a star, circle it with a laser. And then they don't always, if they don't respond, obviously they're a star,
And then you got to look out for what could be a satellite, right? And then you've got Elon's Interlink.
Yeah, the Starlink. I've seen the Starlink several times, actually. When the very first time we saw it, it literally looked like a caterpillar. Like, you could see like little balls of light. It looked like a train almost. And you could kind of see it kind of just going like this across the sky. And yeah, you see it. You can plainly see that there's individual satellites and that they're connected together. So it's really cool when you do see it, though. It's cool. You're like, what is that? Okay, Starlink.
I've yet to see it yet, and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But yeah.
Well, they have a base here. He's got SpaceX here at the Kennedy Space Center, and I've seen it. I've been there. They actually launch from the I can't remember the number of the launch pad, but they do launch and do rent the space where they used to, all the shuttles, all of the used to where they would launch all the shuttles and everything. Those pads. I can't remember the name of the number of the pad, but they have an amazing facility. Like, when you go, listen, listen, okay, Disney's great when you got little kids, but I can assure you, if you guys you come to Florida, go to the Kennedy Space Center. It is so amazing. And there's some really awesome things that you see there. And historical, amazing things about the space program. And it's pretty cool. You got to check it out. It's worth it. It's worth it.
I'd like to go down and see the actual launch of one of the rockets.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I actually, the year that the Challenger incident, tragedy happened, we saw that launch. And
yeah, you read my mind. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, that was rough.
87, 86,
87,
something like
I think
that.
it was.
I remember when that happened.
Me too.
In fact, I remember exactly where I was because I worked at a small little grocery store in town, and I was putting I was returning bottles. Customers bringing bottles. So the dumbest job, you had to put bottles away, and we get millions of bottles being returned. And so the guy at the store had like a little 13-inch. Remember those 13-inch black and white TVs?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember because I was taking a big basket full of bottles past into the room to put the bottles away. And for whatever the reason, I just happened to look at TV, and all of a sudden, there it was. And I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Just like when we had 9/11, I was laying in bed, and I just happened to wake up. And I just woke up, and I turned on the TV, and I'm looking, and I see the plane. I'm like, and I seen it hit. I seen it because it was live. I seen it hit. I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
And holy cow, what it was going. So those two things I distinctly remember as a bottle boy, and just laying in bed, just turning on the TV, and within 30 seconds, that's when it all took place.
Yeah.
Like we all remember those
Yeah.
horrific events.
Yeah, that sickness, that queasy feeling in the pit of your stomach where you don't have words. It's just you're just feeling it within yourself, and your heart breaking.
It feels like you're almost dreaming, or this is not whatever the situation. You're not,
Yeah, like it's not real.
You're not real. You're in a dream state. But again, let me ask you. We talked a lot about your Bigfoot stuff going on. What have you experienced in the field, like regarding just like the paranormal? Have you had any ghost encounters, spiritual type encounters where were kind of freaky?
Yeah, I've had lots of those.
Oh well, let's hear a couple.
Well, one that was really, really interesting was there's in Myakka City, there's it's called the Crowley Museum, Crowley Nature Museum. Right now it's closed. Unfortunately, they're trying to, they got hit so hard from Hurricane Ian, and they've had a lot of damage to everything. But they have a house there on site. It's a historical site, and built in 1889. And there are a lot of spirits in there. And we were doing an investigation. It was nighttime investigation. We had somebody doing the Estes method where she was sitting in a chair, blindfold on. She's got noise counseling headphones on, and she's listening to just nothing but white noise. Was literally outside of the house asking questions. She couldn't hear them.
Wow.
So every time this person asked a question, I'm sitting down across from her. I have it on video, and I'm going to put it together, guys. I'm going to get it on my channel. I will, I promise. I'm going to share it. I have a lot of stuff I haven't shared. I have so much stuff that I have not.
Well, you can't share it all at once.
No.
Yeah, space it out.
No. But I've got. So I'm sitting there. Matt is actually standing to my left, and he's got headphones and an audio recorder. I heard in real time. He heard it on the audio recording. We got it on the audio, a disembodied voice, and he would ask a question outside the building. She wasn't hearing anything. And every time they asked a question, we got one response every time. 11 is how many times it actually did this. And each time it was the same thing. And it was just this like deep, long moan.
Wow.
And it happened 11 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
What do you think it was? Do you think
I believe it's the negative. There's a one specific room, and this is I've had a negative entity try to jump me there in that same house. It was the first time it ever happened, and then it happened again and the next time I went, and it definitely comes out of this one particular room. And the day that it tried to jump me, we got that on video as well. And we were using the Necrophonic app. Now those apps don't curse. All right. They don't curse. And on video, I'm holding the phone and I have it up and I'm just we're just play light conversation. All of a sudden I felt this like really negative energy come into the room from that sweep out of that room and into where we were. And it tried to climb up my leg to come, like it got about up to my knee, and I realized what was happening, and I'm going, oh no. Cause I heard, it even said demon you could hear on the Necrophonic app.
No way.
I said, did a negative energy just enter the room? And it said demon. It started to climb up my leg, trying to jump me from behind this direction. And I just started talking to it going, oh, no, this isn't happening. You're not doing this. You better. So as I'm telling it to stop on the Necrophonic app, it says, F you, swine.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah. So we immediately stopped session. We were done, saged, said, go back to source, baby. And we left. Yeah. So I've had some crazy stuff happen at that place.
That's crazy. You know, I have to ask a question. And when I ask this question, I believe in everything, all this stuff, right? Okay. So, but my question, I'm trying to, because I don't have any of these electronic apps or anything. I've never listened for ghosts. I'm just trying to, do you think if I was not involved with this and I was just like a, negative person, I would say, well, these apps, it's a sales pitch where it's going to produce sounds just so you buy it and think you're hearing something, right? Yeah. So how does that work where you know that you're really being communicated with? I mean, it takes the energy, the frequency, and it formulates words. So are these apps really, and again, I believe that they are, but how do we know that we're really getting these?
We don't know. I mean, there's, sometimes you have to consider the source of the equipment that you're using. And
right.
In addition to that, you need to, if whatever equipment it is you are using, you need to know the capabilities and what it can do. Here's a perfect example. A lot of ghost hunters, and KRISTA, they like to use the DR60. It's a recorder, okay? And if you try to get one now, they're probably $3,000-$4,000. Now, the reason that they are so special is because there is something inside them. I'm not mechanical, so I don't know what it is exactly, but there's something inside those where there is a defect, okay? The company realize there's a defect within this particular model of audio recorder. And they tend to get, quote unquote, more EVPs. Okay. They're somehow picking up filtering some sort of something. And a lot of ghost hunters want them. Now, does that mean that it actually works?
Yeah.
Or does that mean that everybody's audio is skewed and it's really not evidence?
Yes, correct.
I don't know the answer.
Okay.
I don't know that answer.
No.
You have to know the equipment that you're using.
Right.
And there's always room for error in using any app. You know what I'm saying? But I do believe that these are things that they can use to communicate with us.
Yeah. And one thing too, that I always tell people, people who ghost hunt with me know I don't use very, very little equipment. to me, like your own body tells you is your best
biosensor.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
So yeah, and I believe that blondes. I'm looking at the thing, KRISTA, because you know me, my body, I pick up a lot of things,
Yeah.
as you know. I mean, you say I have whatever, but I don't want to get into me right now because I can tell my storm is starting to move in. I can tell I'm going to be losing this. It's very windy. I see the trees blowing all over, which sucks. However, with that being said, though, Marty.
Yes.
Because we're coming up on close to the ending anyway. Where can people find you, and what do you have going on your channel here in the near future?
Yeah, I've got quite a bit of things coming up. Actually, I've got, like I mentioned, the show with Robbie Rains on August 6th. I also have a day or so before that, I've got Mark Fiorentino coming on. We're going to be talking about Einstein's unified field theory.
Well, I definitely tune into that one. Einstein.
Yes. Mark's amazing. He's very versed, very well read. He's an author. It's going to be a really cool show. We got that coming up. We have a pre-record that will be tomorrow night. And then Blondes and Booze tonight, and with Cam Buckner, right? And so that's and I'm at the NonnaBoss. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, just at the NonnaBoss.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, the link's in the chat, and I'll have it in my after the show ends. And KRISTA, again, you have Cam Buckner going on tonight, and
Buckner tonight, and then tomorrow night it is a pre-record, as Marty said, as we will be in Gatlinburg, but Brandy and I did the show with Marty, and it's on Pareidolia.
Yeah.
So
it'll be an interesting
Pareidolia.
Yes.
Yeah. We show some really cool pictures. I'll leave it at that. It's worth tuning into.
Oh, I'm giving you a hard time, but I'll be definitely tuning in if I have my internet, because it's supposed to kick up another harder in 30 minutes. Right? Always something, man. This is the worst weather I've had here since I've lived here.
Yeah, Rob, thank you so much. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. I was so happy and so excited that our schedules finally linked up.
Yeah, they did. Because I know that our schedules do kind of conflict, so I was so happy to hear, even though I forgot.
No worries.
I was so happy to hear you were coming on, because I wanted you on for a while, and it was a great show. You did a great job. I appreciate what you do out there, as I do with everybody else, and thanks to everybody for coming on in and listening, watching. Give us a thumbs up.
Yep. And once again, if you guys are around Gatlinburg area, come and see us. Blondes and Booze. We have a booth there. We're a vendor this weekend. So come and say hi.
Yeah.
Yep. Everybody, again, subscribe to all our channels, the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast, the NonnaBoss, BMR, text, all of us. You guys know who we are. Thank you. Leave a comment. Give the thumbs up on your way out. And I do appreciate that from each and every single one of you. And I have to perform my my duties. I'm not like Tex. I do know where the button is. And until next time, for Marty and for KRISTA, BMR. Until next time, we're out.
See y'all.